So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. In this live session we will be discussing Indian Express. Since it was weekend we could not come live, so we will be talking about the newspaper of your Saturday and Sunday, and then we will move for the today's newspaper as well. Okay, the articles and their dates are written on the top right corner, so you can refer from that for your navigation from the you can say newspaper. Okay, so we'll start with the practice question which was given to you in the previous lecture. Okay, then we will move towards these 3-4 articles. One is related to your Adani port to enter Sensex. You know that what is Sensex, what is Nifty. If not, then we will be talking about that as well. Our focus will be on the mostly the static part, that would be your Sensex as well as Nifty and how these two are different. Okay, then India and the trade deficit. So when we are talking about the trade deficit data, it has come out that when we are talking about the top 10 deficit you can say trade partners, India is facing deficit with several of them. So we will be talking about that. Then we will see Virupaksha temple. When we are talking about this particular temple, it was in news recently. Why it is in news, we will see. The thing is, these temples of South India, when we are talking about the areas like Hampi, etc., specifically when we talk about Virupaksha, it is a World Heritage Site as well. So that is why it becomes more important. And recently ASI is going for some kind of restoration work over there. So that is why it was in news, and so it becomes even more important for you. So you can go and read about the history as well. I will be discussing who has made this temple. Okay. Then moving further, we will be see 1 or 2 articles from around the world, and for your own read there will be 2 articles because there are 3 newspapers, and then we will move to the practice question. If you look at the today's front page, there is nothing much to discuss. Okay, and now let's start with the practice question which was given to you in the previous lecture. In which habitat is amoeba commonly found? Okay, so when we are talking about amoebas, we have discussed it that there was this brain eating amoeba. So we have talked about that, and in that regard we have seen that what is the habitat for these amoebas. Okay, so they are found in basically warm fresh water environments. So basically when we are talking about this warm, they can resist up to a temperature of 46 degrees Celsius, and they are found in the fresh water. Okay, so option C would be your right answer. They will be found in the warm water lakes or rivers, or even in the swimming pools, etc., if they are not well maintained. Okay, so that is about your practice question. Now moving further and starting with the first article, that is Adani port to enter Sensex. Okay, now Sensex is basically nothing but a index of nearly 30 companies. Okay, and this how these companies are basically performing. On the basis of the weighted average of these performances of these 30 companies, we can decide that how market is performing overall. Okay, so whenever we are talking about the investments, etc., or the stock market, they are referring to these indexes. So that is why it becomes important, and these are quite important indicator of the market performances. Okay, now Adani Group and their ports are basically they are entering into Sensex. Okay, few months back there was this particular case wherein there was this company or research center, that is Hindenburg. They have accused of Adani's to go for any kind of fraudulent activities, short selling, etc. So basically because of which their stock prices were quite down, and now they are recovering from it, and they will be entered into the Sensex. Okay, now let's talk about what is Sensex and what is this article about. So Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone APSEZ will become first Adani Group company to be included in the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange. Stock Exchange is basically the place wherein you will be dealing with the stocks. Okay, and when we are talking about Sensex, Bombay Stock Exchange is the body which is related to Sensex. Okay, now when we are talking about this particular group, it is already part of Nifty at the National Stock Exchange. When we are talking about India, there are 2 indexes. One is Sensex, second is Nifty, which are basically your market indicators. When we are talking about the Sensex, that is Bombay Stock Exchange is the body which is taking care of that. And when we are talking about the Nifty, for that we have National Stock Exchange, that is NSE. So when we are talking about the companies to add into Sensex, there are few conditions. Okay, you don't have to remember all these conditions, but the thing is there are few conditions. One of them is that company should be listed in the Nifty. Okay, so that is why here you can see that it is already part of the Nifty at National Stock Exchange. Okay, Now there was this allegation, as I told you, Hindenburg Research has accused the group for going for some kind of fraudulent activities in the market, okay, because of which the share prices were declining. But recently they have recovered from it, and now they have also declined the allegations. They have said that there is no such wrongdoing which has happened, okay. Now what is Sensex at BSE, and we will talk about what is Nifty, okay. So the crux of this particular thing we will be discussing in the next slide. Then how Nifty is different from Sensex, we will come back to that later, okay. Now here you can see Sensex and Nifty. When we are talking about Sensex index is basically considered as Sensex, okay, sensitive index. This is the, you can say full form, sensitive index, how sensitive the market is, okay, that is Sensex. Sensex is related to the Bombay Stock Exchange, we have seen that, and it was founded in 1986, okay. Then 30 companies are indexed in Sensex, okay. And then when we are talking about Nifty, Nifty is considered as, or you can say National 50 is basically considered as Nifty, okay. So there are 50 companies in that. Nifty is related to National Stock Exchange, that is NSE, and it was founded in 1995, and there are 50 companies which are indexed in the Nifty, okay. So with Nifty you can remember that there are 50 companies, and when we are talking about Sensex there are 30 companies, okay. So this is basically the difference from between these two you can say stocks, okay. Now as you can say, all these same things are written over here. Sensex considered 30 stock and Nifty considered 50 stocks, okay, and it was launched in 1986, another was launched in 1995, okay. So this is already there. Then coming to the next part, that is how it is different from that, we have already discussed that. Now coming to the how companies are selected in Sensex. When we are talking about Sensex, there are certain criteria. You don't have to remember all these criteria, but 3 to 4 things are quite important over here. I will tell you that. I already told you that when we are talking about Sensex, to enroll into Sensex or to be listed in the Sensex, you must be already a listed company in the Nifty, okay. So here you can say Sensex is considered is reconstituted biannually, okay. So every 2 years they will reconstitute or change the list, okay, in the June and December every year, okay. So in every year there will be 2 times, in June and second will be in December, they will go for the reshuffling, okay. And it must be listing history of at least 6 months at BSE, okay. So basically they are saying that at Bombay Stock Exchange they should have this you can say listing history of at least you can say 6 months, okay. It should have already traded in the trading days. So this particular line is not important for you, just know that there should be a trading history of, you can say, 6 months, okay. Now to be eligible, the stock should have derivative contracts, okay. Now the thing is, what are derivative contracts, etc. An agreement between two parties to buy or sell any form of security at certain price in the future. So basically the thing is, when you are listed over here, that means that you will be dealing in the securities and the shares, etc. So basically that is there should be a derivative contract, okay. Then third is, the company must be among the top 50 companies based on the average 3-month float or total market capital, okay. So that is basically over here. The company must be within the top 75 companies, okay. So that is about this particular thing. So now we can move further. Again, I told you one thing is that it should be you can say listed in the when we are talking about the Sensex, it must be listed in the you can say in the Nifty. That was not true, but the thing is, it should be listed in the Bombay Stock Exchange. There should be a history of this particular thing, okay. And once again I will go through this and I will let you know in the next session. If there is any kind of confusion, we will clear it that way, okay. So that is about your you can say Sensex and Nifty. For your information, or you can say for your examination point of view, this particular table would be sufficient. That's all you need to know when we are talking about the Nifty and Sensex, okay. So this is the table which is important for you. Now moving further, next article which is related to Apex Court says Uttarakhand High Court order for its relocation from Nainital. So basically the Supreme Court has stayed an order by the High Court of Uttarakhand. They have said that they will be going for, you can say, relocation of the High Court from Nainital to some other place, and for that they have give some directions, and they have said that there should be some kind of survey in which they will be asking from the stakeholders like lawyers or the other judges, okay, and the people who are involved in judiciary somehow. They will be talking to them, or there will be some kind of survey, and on the basis of that they will decide the location, okay. For that, High Court has guided the state for the same, okay. But the thing is, Supreme Court has put an stay on that because the you can say Solicitor General or the lawyer for the government, they have said that this is the prerogative of the Parliament and not the court. Okay, when we are talking about the changing the seat of court from Nainital to some other place, that is the prerogative of Parliament and not of High Court. Okay, so High Court cannot go you can go for such kind of referendum wherein they are saying that they can go for survey or something like that. So that is basically over here it is discussed. Point here to be taken is that that is prerogative of Parliament and not of the court. Okay, the Supreme Court Friday stayed an Uttarakhand High Court order that asked the state government to find a suitable place to relocate the court from Nainital. Now, why they are actually relocating this court? There are various factors. One of them is that there is a lot of, you can say, traffic, and because of the tourist, there is a kind of, you can say, rush which is there in Nainital. Okay. Now here you can see the High Court, while asking the Chief Secretary to complete exercise within a month, and directed its Registrar General to open a portal where lawyers and the general public could mark yes or no on the move to shift the premises. Okay. Here Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, they have said that the creation of new benches fall within the prerogative of Parliament, and High Court decision is like a referendum. So High Court cannot go for such a referendum. Okay, because they are saying that they can ask the general public as well as lawyer for the, you can say, this particular sheet to be changes. So here the government has argued that the new bench, if you are going for any kind of new benches, so that is the prerogative of Parliament and not the court. Okay, so that is about it, which has this particular argument has been put forward by the you can say the lawyer from the government side. Okay, so here you can see another thing over here is it was said that another argument which was said that the Parliament or the Union government which can decide where to establish a bench. Okay, so ultimately the government is taking a stand that it is the prerogative of Parliament and the Union government and not of the court over here. Okay, now we can move further to the next article. India in trade deficit with 9 of top 10 trading partners. Okay, so when we are talking about the data from the previous year and this year, you don't have to remember the data, but the thing is now this trend is there that out of top 10 trading partners, when we are talking about India and the other global trade, out of top 10 trading partners, with 9 we have deficit, with USA we have surplus. Okay, so that is there. Now let's see, India has recorded a trade deficit, the difference between the import and export. When we are talking about the trade deficit, that means that how much amount you have actually imported or how much goods or services you have imported minus the one you have exported. Okay, so when we are talking about trade, there are two ways. One, either you can go for exports or there will be imports. Okay, if your exports are higher, okay, if your exports are higher than your imports, that means that you are in surplus. Okay, surplus because you are getting money from outside, because for in the exchange of the exports which you are sending, you will be getting a foreign currency. Okay, and if your imports are lesser, then you will have a surplus of the foreign currency with you. That is why it is a surplus. And if your imports are higher than your exports, then you will go for a deficit. So that is the case with India right now when we are talking about the you can say this particular article here. So they have said that the difference between import and export, that is basically a trade deficit with 9 of its 10 trading partners, including China, Russia, Singapore, Korea in 23-24. Okay, so they are talking about this year, that is 23-24. They are saying that with China, Russia, Korea and Singapore we are having a deficit. Okay, now the data shows that the deficit with China, Russia, Korea, Hong Kong has increased. The gap with the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Indonesia has narrowed. Okay, we have deficit with these countries as well, but the thing is that gap has narrowed. Okay, but when we are talking about these countries like China, Korea, Hong Kong, that gap has reduced. Okay, now China has emerged as India's largest trading partner with 118.4 billion of two-way commerce in 2023-24. Okay, when we are talking about USA, they are just behind China, 118.28. Okay, so there is a very minute difference. When we are talking about the USA and China, if we see for last 2 years, USA was the largest trading partner, but recently China has again surpassed USA. Earlier also, before last 2 years, that was also China which was holding this particular place of largest trading partner. Okay, So here you can see the bilateral trade between India and the US stood at 118.28. In case of China, it was 118.4. Okay. Washington was the top trading partner of New Delhi during 21-22 and 22-23. Last 2 years, Washington was the top, you can say, trading partner. That is basically USA. And when we are talking about the this year, China has again took the place. India has free trade agreement with the 4 of its top 10 trading partners: Singapore, UAE, Korea and Indonesia. With these 4 countries, we have a free trade agreement. So you can say that our duty structure will be, very less or minimum. Okay. So these are basically part of your Asian bloc. India has a trade surplus of $36.74 billion with the USA. So that we are saying that out of 10, there is 1, that is USA, with which we have surplus, and USA has a problem with that as well. Okay. America is one of the few countries with India that has trade surplus. UK, Belgium, Italy, France and Bangladesh, these are also countries which we have this surplus. Okay. India's total trade deficit right now, it is about 238.3 billion US dollars. Okay. And earlier it was 264. Okay. So ultimately the trade deficit is reducing, but the thing is, we are with the number of the countries, we are having trade deficit, that is 9 out of 10. Okay. Now when we are talking about trade deficit is not always a bad thing. When we say that if we are importing raw materials, okay, if there are raw materials which we are importing and then we are creating a capacity to generate exports, okay, so in that case these imports can be, or you can say this trade deficit can be considered. But again, over dependence for the raw material as well, over dependence for the APIs. When we are talking about China, we have dependence on China. When we are talking about the semiconductors, or when we are talking about the APIs in the pharmaceutical industry, so such trade deficit can be detrimental because you are overly relying on such countries. Okay, so that is there. When we are talking about the trade deficit, that means that you are having less, or you can say your imports are basically high. When your imports are high, that means that your foreign currency, let's say dollar, if you are importing something, then your dollar is to go outside from India, so you will have a deficiency of the dollars. When you have the deficiency of dollar, that means that the demand is high. When demand is high in the country of dollar, that means your rupee is basically depreciating. Okay, so if your imports are increasing, that means your rupee is depreciating. So that is not a good thing for us. Okay, so that is about it. And let's say you are importing some goods and you are sending dollar out of the country, your rupee is depreciating. When your rupee is depreciating, that means that your imports are getting costlier. Okay, and if your imports are getting costlier, that means that your deficit will increase. So that will be a vicious cycle if you don't stop it. Okay, so that is about your trade deficit, and that is about the data which is saying that in out of 10 countries, India has deficit with 9. We have surplus with countries like USA, UK, Belgium, France and Bangladesh. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now we can move further to the next article. Now LMV. Okay, so LMV commercialization is a big step forward at right time for India, says experts. Okay, now first we will see why this is a right time. And when we are talking about these launch vehicles, okay, so LMV is one of the launch vehicle, and we are saying that the private players should come forward and go for the manufacture of this particular rocket, so that the institutions like ISRO can go for the higher models. Okay, if ISRO is the only you can say institution which is building these and they are focused on these, then they might have to spend a lot of money on that, and there will be less for the R&D. Okay, considering that, we have said that the private players should get part in the space industry, and they should also go for the manufacturing of such rockets. And when you will have this capacity of manufacturing of such rockets, you can go for the commercialization of that. You can go for you can say you can provide services to other countries as well. So ultimately it will boost the space industry in India. Now that is the you can say motto of our government right now, to go for the you can say increase of private players partnership in the space industry. Now why it is a right time? Okay, they are saying that this move to go for you can say sending, or you can say giving this technology to the private players and tell them to manufacture this. Now this is coming at the right moment, because when we are talking about the other companies or the other countries, there is this SpaceX which has Falcon 9. Okay, so right now when we are talking about, this is the only significant launch vehicle, okay, taking heavy payloads to space. Okay, When we are talking about the Chinese launch vehicles are busy with their own explorations. They are also sending their own missions over there. So that is why they are not providing a market, okay, or you can say they are not providing services as of now. When we are talking about Russian vehicles, Russia has such vehicles like Soyuz. So such vehicles Russia has. So please remember the name. That is, one is Falcon 9, that is of SpaceX. This is a private firm by Elon Musk, okay. Then when we are talking about Russia, there is this Soyuz, okay. Then there is this you can say Aryan group, that is of Europe, and there is this Zaza of Japan. They are also having these you can say launch vehicles, but they are going for more exploration in that particular part, so they are not providing much of these services, okay. At that point of time when UK is busy, USSR is not providing these services, or you can say even if they are providing services, there are US's sanctions, okay, because of which much countries are not going over there. So that is why they have limited options like Falcon 9, and at that point of time, if India comes up with their own launch vehicles, that will be very fruitful for Indian industry, okay. So that is about this thing. Now come to the article here. So that is why it is the right time for us, okay. Other than there is this particular institute, that is NSIA, that is New Space India Limited, okay. So that is basically commercial arm of ISRO. ISRO has another commercial arm, that is Antarctica, okay. So you can say these commercial arms basically has this responsibility to, you can say, commercialize the services which are provided by the, you can say, equipments of the ISRO, okay. Coming to the article, ISRO recently has invited the private firms to build India's heavy rockets as a long awaited step to ensure great participation of the private sector, okay, and to help India emerge stronger in the international space market, rapidly increasing demand for the satellite launches. Every country, every small country, even they are also going for the satellite launches, because for their communication needs, for their other needs which are related to the navigation, etc. For that they are going for the launch of these vehicles, and for the launch of these satellites, and for them they will require a vehicle, okay. So India can be a service provider in that arena. Now ISRO's commercial arm, that is New Space India Limited, they have said that the private firms can go for the end-to-end manufacturing of the launch vehicle Mark 3, okay. This Mark 3, that is basically launch vehicle Mark 3, that is LMV3. Earlier it was known as GSLV Mark 3, okay. So these are the same vehicles almost, okay. So we are saying that these private firms can go for the manufacturing of such things, and this is the same vehicle, okay, which has been sent to for the Chandrayaan 2 as well, okay. This vehicle has a capacity of 4 tons in case of your geostationary orbits, okay, and when we are talking about low Earth orbit, that is 8 tons, low Earth orbits. So these data you should remember, okay. ISRO is saying that private firms will go for you can say partnership of 14 years. In the first 2 years, they will be given the, or you can say there will be a technology transfer, and they will be taught the know-how of this particular technology, and then in the next 12 years, we are expecting that they will go for a manufacturing of this particular project, okay. We are actually envisaged that the private players would be able to build 4 to 6 LMV in every year, okay. 4 to 6 LMVs every year, okay. So that is the target, okay. Now here you can say it will allow ISRO to focus on the NGLV, next generation launch vehicles. Please remember this term, next generation launch vehicle. So that ISRO can focus on that, we can move further in the R&D, ISRO can move further in the R&D, and private players can go for the providing these services, okay. A much bigger launch vehicle being developed at the part of India's vision to set up its own space station. We know that we have a goal for setting up the space station and send Indians to the moon, okay. We have already discussed that why this is the right time, because we have discussed the Falcon 9, we have discussed you can say Russia's you can say capacities, we have discussed why China is not going for it, okay. This is a very opportune moment for India to grab some space for LMV3, and there is a growing market for satellites in the lower Earth orbit as well. ISRO has also given private players a chance to make the recently developed small satellite vehicles, that is SSLV okay, small satellite launch vehicles, and their workhorse, that is PSLV, that is polar satellite launch vehicle. Okay, so I hope this is clear. I would recommend you to go and read about GSLV, PSLV, and then when we are talking about LMV, that will be the latest one. Okay, so that is about this article. Now we can move further to the next article. NOAA predicts normal above normal hurricanes over Atlantic this year. Okay, so there is this you can say storm which is moving towards the Indian coast. Okay, so we have already discussed about it. You should remember the name of that particular storm. If you remember the name, please reply in the comment box. Other than that, we have already discussed in the previous lectures as well, so go through that. Now NOAA, that is National Oceanic and the Atmospheric Administration, has warned of the normal hurricane activity, above normal hurricane activity during the June and November this year. Okay, so basically they are saying that in the month of June, that is your monsoon time, okay, and November is the time when the areas or the eastern coast will experience some kind of you can say rainfalls. Okay, now at that point of time they are saying that there can be above normal hurricanes, okay, those storms you can say. Now the thing is, why these are above normal? Because when we are talking about the current situation, that is right now we are going through a El Nino phase. Now that El Nino phase is suppressing, okay, that is clear. When we are talking about the El Nino will have a negative effect. El Nino will have a negative effect on the, you can say, monsoon or the rainfall. Okay, so that is when we are talking about El Nino, that is basically an abnormal warming of the equatorial Pacific around the coast of Peru and Chile. Okay, so that is why this will have an impact. Okay, you know that there is this El Nino oscillations are there. Okay, and the counter is basically La Nina. La Nina. So basically when we are talking about La Nina, that is basically you can say abnormal cooling of that particular area, that Pacific Ocean. Okay, so when we are having this cooling, there will be a positive impact on the rainfall. Okay, that means that rainfall will increase, and because of which we are saying that there will be an above normal hurricanes. Okay, so basically we are saying that in the coming few months we will see that El Nino will be gone, there will be La Nina, and because of La Nina there will be more rainfalls. Okay, so that is basically the crux of this article. Now let's read it out. So here NOAA has warned of the above normal hurricane activity during the June and November this year. There is an 85% chance of an above normal hurricane season. Okay, so that is what the observation has been made by the institution. Ahead of the onset of La Nina conditions over the central and the equatorial Pacific, the cooler than average sea surface temperature indicating La Nina condition that will emerge by August. So basically we are saying that by August there will be La Nina, and because of which in November there will be more you can say rainfall which will be witnessed over here. Okay, converse to La Nina is El Nino. La Nina is basically abnormal cooling of the Pacific, and when we are talking about the El Nino is basically abnormal warming of that equatorial Pacific. Okay, that is warmer than the average sea surface temperature are recorded over the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Okay, now El Nino and La Nina and the warmer and the cooler phases are basically respectively, when we see El Nino is the warmer phase, La Nina is the cooler phase of the naturally occurring El Nino southern oscillation, that is ENSO. Now that is ENSO phenomena is there, which is called the neutral phase. Okay, so when we are talking about when there is this neutral phase, that is where you will have everything normal under check. Then if there is a equatorial warming, or you can say when we are talking about the equatorial Pacific, there will be a sea surface warming, then it will be El Nino. If there will be an abnormal cooling, that it will be basically your La Nina. Okay, so that is about El Nino and La Nina. ENSO has a huge impact on the hurricane activity. Generally, El Nino reduces hurricane activities, while La Nina tends to increase the activity over the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so that is basically the crux of this article. For instance, during 2021 La Nina, the Atlantic Ocean churned out recorded nearly 30 storms. Okay, now when we are talking about these hurricanes is a phenomena when mostly you will see that the hurricanes are you can say these storms are called hurricanes in the region of Atlantic. Okay, now here you can say at present El Nino conditions persist, but these have been weakening since December last year. Now we are saying that in few months we will be seeing La Nina. ENSO neutral conditions are likely to emerge, the weather model has forecasted, because let's say this is the temperature. Okay, so let's say this is your ENSO condition. ENSO condition wherein everything is normal, okay, the temperature is normal as it should be. If the temperature is high, okay, so this particular point is there, and if it goes like this and it becomes like this, okay, so when temperature is high, you can say that there is El Nino, okay, and when temperature is low, that is basically your La Nina. So here you can say that is oscillation which is keep happening. When from El Nino to La Nina, if you are going for that, then you will see that there will be one condition, that is ENSO, okay. So that is the neutral condition, okay. I hope this is clear. Now here you can say NOO has released hurricane names for the season, and some of these include Oscar, Rafael, Patty, Isaac, Helena, William, etc. Okay, you don't have to remember this last paragraph. Till now you should go and revise your El Nino concepts. What is La Nina and what is ENSO, okay. So these three things are quite important for your exams point of view, okay. Now moving further, Virupaksha temple, as I told you, there was this you can say ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, they are going for the restoration of the pillar or the pavilions which has fallen over here. So these were basically, there were some speculations that these are getting weaker, and recently there was this rainfall, and in that particular rainfall few pillars and this pavilion has fallen, and now ASI will go for the restoration, okay. Now for us the Virupaksha temple becomes important. It is located in Hampi, okay. Here you can see this is the picture of this Virupaksha temple. It is a World Heritage Site. That is why it is even more important, okay. Other than that, Hampi has a various archaeological, you can say structures which are there, so you can go through those structures. When we are talking about this Virupaksha temple, it is dedicated to Lord Virupaksha, an avatar of Shiva, okay. The temple was constructed by Lakhan Dandesha, a commander under Deva Rai II of Vijayanagar Empire. So that is about Deva Rai. Please remember Deva Rai, Vijayanagar Empire, and the name, that is Lakhan Dandesha, okay. So that is about you can say Virupaksha temple. That was all the news, but the thing is, when such incident happens, when these temples come into news, and that is why they are reflected in the paper as well, okay. So that is why please remember Virupaksha temple. Now in Hampi there are other you can say archaeological as well as the monumental sites are there, so please go through them as well. Now moving further, China sends second glacial water shipment from Tibet to Maldives, okay. From in Tibet, China has glaciers, and they have sent the nearly 1500 tons of water from the Tibetan glaciers to Maldives. Why Maldives? Because Maldives is a water scarce country, because most of the Maldives is island, and there are these atolls are there, okay, and these atolls and the islands are basically made of coral reefs, and most of the water which is present over here is salt water, or you can say the oceanic water, so they cannot use it for the drinking purposes, and that is why they need assistance from the other countries, and China is going for that. And you know that Maldives and China, they are you know, there is this new friendship which is going over here, because the president in Maldives, that is Mohammed Muizu, is basically having this inclination toward China, okay. So this is not the first time which has happened, it is the second time it has happened, okay. So in the March also they have sent the similar shipment in Maldives, okay. So that is about this particular article. This last paragraph can be important for you, which we have already discussed, you can go through it, okay. Now next part is basically related to you can say animal behavior. As I told you, UPSC has started asking questions related to the animal behaviors, and they are not random, okay. So when we are talking about this particular, you can say, picture over here, that is a picture of orangutan. They have asked a question related to orangutan, which we will be I will be giving you as a practice question. So that was a PYQ, okay. So on the basis of these animal behaviors, they are asking these questions, okay. So right now what is happening is that doctors out, okay. So basically it was seen that these you can say various species are basically using the various herbs, or you can say various insects, etc., as a you can say if they are having some kind of medicinal properties. Obviously in the animal kingdom we don't see doctors. If we have some kind of you can say wound, we will go to a doctor, they will put antiseptic, etc. But when we are talking about animals, they do not have it. But in the orangutans, it was seen that an orangutan from Indonesia was observed chewing leaves of vine called Fibencera tinctoria, okay. So that is the plant, plant. They actually chewed it and they have applied it on the facial wounds. Okay, so that is an behavior which has been cited. Here you can see a monkey business. An orangutan from Indonesia was observed chewing leaves of vine called Fabaceae tinctoria and applying the paste to the open facial wounds. Okay, so that is there. In the forest, there are no hospitals, so animals and the birds resort to time-tested ways of treating ailments. As they have no pharmacies, animals and the birds to turn leaves, roots, soil, and the insects with medical, properties. Okay, so that is an important behavior you can remember. Okay, now moving further. For your own read, there are two articles. One is related to your overlapping territorial claims in the, when we are talking about the Antarctica part over Cold War and what led to the Antarctic Treaty. We have already talked about it. Okay, the Antarctic Treaty, why Antarctic Treaty is important, how many members has started this initiative, and then how many members are there. Okay, what are the claims right now? All these things has been discussed. You can go through this. There are three important things, that is Maitri, Dakshin Gangotri and Bharti. I have already talked about them as well. Okay, now moving further, next article for your read is basically what Norway, Ireland and Spain's recognition of Palestine as a state means. Okay, we have talked about this news article as well as these three countries are considering giving recognition to the Palestinian statehood. Okay, so that is about this article. You can go through this article as well. Now last part, that is your practice question. Which of the following makes a tool with a stick to scrape insects from a hole in a tree or a log of wood? Fishing cat, orangutan, otter or sloth bear. So basically, as I told you, there are these animal behaviors which UPSC has been asking. So you can go through this question and answer me in the comment box. Okay, so with that I would like to take your leave. If you are not subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel. Thank you.